Hey, shalom, shalom, Most High Christ bless. Can you hear me? Let me see if I got this on. Let me know if you can hear me. I see someone online. If you can, give me a thumbs up in the comment section. So, sorry about the delay. Had a technical difficulty, and I finally was able to get it fixed. You know, every time you're trying to go online and do class, something just randomly happened the morning of. So, all praises. So we got that rectified. So okay, I see thumbs up so people can hear me. All praises. All praises. All right. Uh Topic for today or this morning is the Hasmonean Legacy Part 3. If you all been following when I've been doing these classes last week and the week before, I did Hasmonean Legacy 1 in Part 2. Now I'm on Part 3. So without further ado, we're gonna start last time I did the class. I won't say last week. I forget it was last week or not. But last time I did this, class. I was on Second Maccabees, the fourth chapter. So I'm briefly do a recap from the last time I did, because I'm gonna continue from the last verse I left off at. Well, I'm gonna go up a little bit just to do a brief recap. Okay, so how's the? Let me ask this before I start. Is it lagging or is it smooth? Let me know. Let me know in the comment if am I lagging or am I or is it okay? Okay, all praises. Sister Alicia Thomas said smooth. Angela said it's perfectly fine. All praises. All right. So we're going to Second Maccabees, the fourth chapter, and we're gonna go up. We're gonna go up to start at verse 23 because I think we finished off in verse 34. But again, I'm gonna recap a little bit briefly on the history. So let's go jump up to verse 23. So last time I did it was dealing with the wicked of Israel, and one of those wicked was the ringleader of the Hellenist movement, which is Menelaus. Okay, Menelaus. Um, when you go to verse 23, well, we're in Second Maccabees 4 and 23. Verse 23, it mentions Menelaus. So he was one of the ringleaders. He was Israel, from the tribe of Benjamin. He was the brother to Simon. We read Second Maccabees, the third chapter, concerning that. And when we read this verse, you're going to see he was Simon's brother from the tribe of Benjamin. So let's read that real quick. We're going to Second Maccabees 4, verse 23. 3 years afterwards, Jason sent Menelaus, the aforesaid Simon's brother, to bear the money unto the king and to put him in mind of certain necessary matters. So early up in this chapter, when we started off in verse 1, this goes into when Jason and King Antiochus took over, verse 7, took the rulership. You write your last class, I'll explain that. I'm not going to go because I got a lot to cover, so I'm going to just go on. But King Antiochus took over the kingdom over the Antioch, and Jason, uh, Oniah's brother, which were from the lineage of Levi, which are the priests, he was wicked as hell. Jason was wicked as hell, and he took the priesthood underhanded and paid to become high priests. And It was approved by King Antiochus Epiphanes, and later he was granted that priesthood, meaning he paid for it through bribery. So he wasn't anointed like their proper way of being high priest, like his brother Onias was, because he kept the commandments. But this brother was wicked. So it started with Jason. Now time has passed, and Jason sent Menelaus to go give money to the King Antiochus to make laws. That's what they did. They bribed the king. They used bribery to be able to get things accomplished or pass in their provinces. So Jason was using Menelaus to do that, and Menelaus ended up going to the king and undermining Jason, like Jason undermined his brother Onias by taking the priesthood. So that's what Menelaus from the tribe of Benjamin did. So that's where we at now. So I briefly caught you guys up. So we're back at 2 Maccabees, the 4th chapter, and verse 23 again. 3 years after Jason sent Menelaus, the aforesaid Simon's brother, to bear the money unto the king and to put him in mind of certain necessary matters. Why? Because Jason wanted certain things to be accomplished. To do that, he had to pay the king, which is King Antiochus, which is an Edomite, to get that approved. Menelaus, upon being sent to go do this for Jason, he ended up saying, "No, I'm gonna take the priesthood." So there's a lot of wickedness. This is the wicked of our people. And Menelaus and Jason, Menelaus became the ruler of the Hellenist movement. Now remember I said there was 3 political groups. It was the Hasmonean, the Hellenist, and Hasmonean or Assyrian political parties at the time of the Maccabees. Okay, so this one we're going over is the Hellenists, which is Hellenized, which is the paganness of our people who love the heathen. And we read a little bit about it last time I was doing this on chapter 4 about how they built gymnasium, Greek as fashions, things of that nature. They built a whole gymnasium and called it the Assyrians or Antiochians. I'm sorry, not Assyrians, Antiochians, because the Assyrians was the one that keep the laws, statutes, and commandments. It was of all people. But the Antiochians were the name that coined from Jason by saying, if you allow me to build a gymnasium, I'm gonna call anybody who come here, the young men, as Antiochians. So we're going over the history of how we became known as the Greeks or Gentiles when you read in the New Testament, where Christians get confused at. Okay, back to 2 Maccabees, the 4th chapter, verse 24 now. So Menelaus go and he undermines Jason. We're going to read about it. But he being brought to the presence of the king, when he had magnified him from the glorious appearance of his power, got the priesthood to himself, offering more than Jason by 300 talents of silver. So he offered more money, promising the king, I'll pay you more than Jason. Let you know, that's how you know there's no honor amongst thieves. It's a saying, there's no honor among thieves. Both of these dudes was wicked, and they both one undermined one, and the other, it's just wickedness. So he said, he promised the king, I'll pay you more money, which the king agreed. Let you know Esau is a devil. Listen, if you're going to pay me more, I don't care who's there sitting in the priesthood. Whoever's going to pay more, I'm giving it to the highest bidder. That's what the kid let you know is no honor. Okay, verse 20, we're in 25 now. So he came with the king's mandate, bringing nothing worthy the high priesthood, but having the fury of a cruel tyrant and the rage of a savage beast. Then Jason, verse 26 now, then Jason, who had undermined his own brother, which was Onias, when you read 2 Maccabees 3, Onias was a righteous high priest. Jason in chapter 4 undermines him and take the priesthood when you read 2 Maccabees 4 and verse 7 by paying or bribery. Now he got that same karma on him. So the Lord said, because you did that, I'm going to make another wicked person more vile than you do it to you. So that's what we're reading in verse 26. Then Jason, who had undermined his own brother, being undermined by another, was compelled to flee into the country of the Ammonites. He went to the country of Ammonites. Ammonites today is your Japan, the people of Japan. All right, verse 27. So Menelaus got the principality, but as for the money that he had promised unto the king, he took no good order for it, albeit Sostratus, the ruler of the castle, required it. So Menelaus took the high priesthood, and then He after promising the king, "I'll pay you more money." King agreed. So now it's time to collect. But you read in verse 27, he said, "But as for the money that he had promised unto the king, he took no good order of it." Meaning, he never paid. He never cashed in. He ended up going back to Jerusalem after leaving the presence of the king, and the king gave him a sect of army guards to go ahead and enforce the order of the king, which is making Menelaus the new high priest in Jerusalem, the Benjamite, right? Hold on, let me check the comments. Okay, all praises. We got a scribe. All praises. All praise. James, you up. All praises. Keep up. All right. So he ended up undermining Jason. Next thing you know, he took the high priesthood and paid more. I mean, what promised to pay. He didn't pay yet. He promised to pay King Antiochus Epiphanes more money to take the priesthood. So apparently, it's time to collect. He sent his Sostratus, when you read verse 27 again, Sostratus, the ruler of the castle, to require it. Listen, hey, where's the money you promised the king that we granted you the high priesthood, Menelaus? We also gave you an armed guard to do this. Where's that money? So what did Menelaus do? He didn't pay up the money. Oh, let's go. Okay, let's go 24. Wait a minute. Let me see. Real quick. I'm gonna go to this book real quick to show you, because what we just read in verse 27, where it says, let me read verse 27 again. 2 Maccabees 4:27 says, "So Menelaus got the principality, but as for the money that he had promised unto the king, he took no good order of it," meaning he didn't pay. Albeit Sostratus, the ruler of the castle, required it. He said, "Oh, you got to pay that money." You know, I'm gonna go to this book called it's called Judea Trembles Under Rome. This is from, let me put it up. Let me see if you guys, let me know if you guys can see it. Thumbs up if you can see it. I'm stepping my IT game up. I'm going to see if I can show you the book, because usually I read and I'm like, that's not good. I want to be able to show you guys what I'm reading. Let me see if I can show it. Gives me issues already. Let me see. Give me a second, Israel. I'm trying to do it quick. It should have been already up. Because I want you to see the book. It's called, if I can get it, let's see. I'll just create a new one. All right. It's coming. There you go. This thing always give me an issue, this cover. Here it is. Okay. All right. Thumbs up if you guys can see this. Thumbs up if you can see it. Thumbs up. Oh, happy feast of dedication, sundown tonight. We feasting the dedication. Hey, I'm gonna go into it since it's feast of dedication. It's perfect timing to go over this history. Can you guys see that book cover? Thumbs up for me. Okay, so this is Judea trembles under Rome. Okay, this is the book we're going to read out of, going into the history we're reading in 2 Maccabees, the 4th chapter. Okay, so we're going to go into the book. This is by Rudolph R. Renzer. If you know about Rudolph R. Renzer, he was the one that wrote the Babylon from Timbuktu. So if you know about that book, Leadership has referenced this book many times, and most of you should already have the book. It's Rudolph R. Renzer, the author, and he wrote the book Babylon Timbuktu. He also wrote this book, Judea Trembles Under Rome. So now let's go into the cover. All praise, everybody's taking to see it. We're gonna go in the book. We're going in the book. Now, as you can see, we're going to read this history, the green part. Now, I don't have a cursor to follow along. Hopefully, you guys can see where I'm going to read from. I'm going to start from a Judean Benjamite. All right. That's where I'm going to start from. So, hopefully, you guys can see that. Okay, it says, a Judean Benjamite by the name of Onias Menelaus. This is the same Menelaus we're reading in the Second Maccabees, the 4th chapter, who undermined Jason. Okay, remember it says a Judean Benjamite. Remember I told you Menelaus was the brother to Simon, which were of the tribe of Benjamin. You read that in Second Maccabees, the 3rd chapter, I think verse 3. Okay, it says a Judean Benjamite by the name of Onias Menelaus wanted to be high priest. So he went to Syria and asked the Greek king Antiochus IV, which is Antiochus Epiphanes, to assist him to acquire that office. Antiochus agreed to do it, providing that he kept his promise to give him a large sum of money. Then the king dispatched a large Then the king dispatched a large dispatchment of troops to accompany Menelaus back to Jerusalem to guarantee that he would be installed as high priest. So Menelaus didn't just go by himself. Menelaus went with a bang of a troop of armies that Antiochus Epiphanes granted him to guarantee the transition. Because remember, you going back to a high priest that's already there, which is Jason, and you're going to need a power or some form of army to help you overthrow Jason. And mind you, the king Antiochus is the one that set Jason up. This is how you know Esau is wicked as he don't care. All he care about is money. Okay, I see somebody said they can't hear. Can anybody hear me? Can anybody hear? If y'all can hear me, let me know. Thumbs up, because I see one person say they can't hear. Okay. Yeah, so why this person say he can't hear? He's wicked self. Pro something. Pro crash, somebody can't hear. All right. So now we're reading the second paragraph, highlighted area. Starts with the majority, all right? The majority of the Judeans were not only angry that a member of the Hellenist pagan party was made high priest, but also angry because a Benjamite, not of the family of Aaron, was installed in that office. It is written in the law of Moses that only a male of the offsprings of the tribe of Levi and of the family of Aaron can be the high priest. In protest against Menelaus and his pagan Hellenist party, thousands of Jerusalemites fled the city and dwelt in the wilderness of Judea, and in the Jordan River around the Dead Sea. So the people was in uproar. They're like, wait a minute. How you become high priest? You're not even out of the seed of Aaron. You know, you're not in the seed of Aaron. You're not a Levite. How are you getting high priest? So it was an uproar. Some people ran in the wilderness and left. Didn't want to deal with that. So they said not only that they didn't like him taking high priesthood, but he wasn't even from the seed of Aaron. So let you know he was from the tribe of Benjamin. But then let's go back to the scripture. So I wanted to show that. I wanted to give you that history to show you that the scholars understand this thing. So Rudolph R. Winslow, he's a good brother. He did extensive research, and he's connecting the dots. So he give a little more details than what the scriptures give. So that's why I went there. But let's go back to the scriptures. Second Maccabees, the 4th chapter, and we're going to read again 27. So Menelaus got the principality, but as for the money that he had promised unto the king, he took no good order for it, albeit Sostratus, the ruler of the castle, required it. Verse 28. For unto him appertaineth the gathering of the customs, wherefore they were both called before the king. So both of them were summoned before the king due to this money they had to pay. Okay, verse 29. Now Menelaus left his brother Lysimachus in his stead in the priesthood, and Sosterchus left Cretus, who was governor of the Cyprians. So now Menelaus, they remember this. Menelaus had another brother. It was, remember, he had Simon. Now he has Lysimachus. He was also a brother to Menelaus, and this dude was even worse than his brother. So upon being summoned by the king to go to Antioch, go before the king about this money, Sosterchus and Menelaus, they both led individual people in their stead to help push or govern. Menelaus, he left his brother in charge of the high priesthood to continue administering, holding their affairs and their wickedness in Jerusalem. Verse 30, while those things were in doing, they of Tarsus and Malos made insurrection because they were given to the king's concubine called Antiochus. So Antiochus. Well, her concubine was to Antiochus the Epiphany. While he summons Menelaus to come before him, an uproar or a civil war was taking place in one of the provinces he was over that he left his concubine to rule. And it was an insurrection taking place. So upon these men coming before the king, because remember, it was journey. They didn't have airplanes back then. It was traveling journeys, and it took time. But by the time they got there, Antiochus Epiphanes already left because he had to go put back in order where his concubine was dwelling at. What this insurrection, he had to go mitigate that stuff. Verse 31, then came the king in all haste to appease matters, leaving Andronicus, a man in authority, for his deputy. So he left Antioch and went to go deal with the cities or the provinces his concubine was ruling over to appease matters. Verse 32, now Menelaus, supposing that he had gotten a convenient time, stole certain vessels of the gold out of the temple and gave some of them to Andronicus, and some he sold into Tyrus and the cities round about, which when Onias knew of this surety, he reproved them. So Onias found out this man taking money or treasures from the temple, so he corrected him for it, and withdraw himself into the sanctuary of Daphne that lied by Antiochia. Wherefore Menelaus, taking Andronicus apart, prayed him to get Onias into his hands, who being persuaded thereunto, and coming to Onias in deceit, gave him his right hand with oaths, and though he were suspected by him, yet persuaded he him to come forth out of the sanctuary, whom forthwith he stood up without regard of justice. So Menelaus was very cunning. Upon knowing the king was not there after he was summoned before the king about this money he promised, he found out the king left. Andronicus, the deputy, was in the king's stead at the time. Menelaus seeked opportunity yet again. Like he undermined Jason, here now he's going to undermine the king basically by saying, I'm going to bribe his deputy Andronicus by paying him, put a good word in for the king. That way he don't judge me for not paying him for the last time I promised him some money. And Andronicus agreed because they all covetous. The Edomites covetous, so they agreed. So then, upon him agreeing, he said, not only that, how about you get rid of Onias for me? Remember, Onias, Simon, his Menelaus' other brother, when you read 2 Maccabees, the 3rd chapter, didn't like Onias. So these Benjamites was always trying to overthrow the Onias from the priesthood seat. So Onias ended up leaving. Upon leaving, Menelaus was not satisfied. He said, no, Andronicus, I need you to kill this dude. So Andronicus agreed. So they go to the sanctuary. He was hiding in the temple. He said, come out. And Onias knew he perceived it was some evil, but he still came out. And ultimately they murdered what's his name? Onias. So I'm gonna go to this book. This book here, I mentioned it last class. This is a very excellent book. I got this from Bishop. Shout out to Bishop. Gave me this as a gift. Very good in your studies. A who's who in the Bible, the Old Testament and Apocrypha, okay? So this book, we're going right into it. We're going to open it up. And notice it says Apocrypha as well. So it's letting you know it's giving certain characters or players in the history that they give you a brief history about. So let's go to Lysimachus, because remember, we read that name in 2nd Maccabees 4 verse 29, which was Menelaus' brother. So opening a book, we're going under Lysimachus. If you see that highlighted yellow area, that's what we're going to read from right there. Okay? It says, Lysimachus, he was the brother of Menelaus, the corrupt high priest in Jerusalem. In the reign of Antiochus IV Epiphany, let you know that's what we're reading. When Menelaus was summoned to Antioch, why? Because he promised the king money. He didn't pay. So Sostratus and Menelaus was summoned before the king to go to Antioch. Reading along the second highlighted area where it says Lysimachus. Lysimachus was left in charge of the temple and plundered its treasury. In the public riots provoked by his action, he was killed by the mob. And we're going to read that. Let's go back to the Bible. 2nd Maccabees. We're going to go with 2nd Maccabees, the 4th chapter. And we're going to jump down. Oh, let's read on verse 35. So verse 35, for the which caused not only the Jews, but many also of other nations took great indignation and were much grieved for the unjust murder of the man. That man they murdered was Onias. Andronicus got him killed by the order of Menelaus, the Benjamite, who was the current high priest at the time. Verse 36, and when the king was come again from the places about Cilicia and the Jews that were in the city and certain of the Greeks that abhorred the fact also complained because Onias was slain without cause. So upon this happening, king got things settled in the areas of where his concubine dwelled. He returned back and found out the news about what happened to Onias. Although this king was wicked as hell, he didn't agree with that senseless murder. Okay, so the people or the common folks in Jerusalem, the Israelites, complained to the king concerning the unjust murder of Onias. Okay, verse 38. And being kindled with anger, forthwith he took away Andronicus his purple and rent off his clothes, and leading him through the whole city unto that very place where he had committed impiety against Onias, there slew he the cursed murderer. Thus the Lord rewarded him his punishment as he had deserved. So let you know the Lord is a just judge, especially if you touch his anointed. Remember, Onias was a righteous one out of all this wickedness in the midst of Jerusalem at the time. Although Esau don't like us, which is the king Antiochus Epiphanes, he was wicked as hell. He the one that defiled the temple. We read that last class on 1st Maccabees, the 1st chapter. Upon him doing all this, don't get it twisted, he's still a devil the Bible speaks of. Although he killed his own deputy, Andronicus, for murdering him, don't trust Esau. I know people might think you could trust Esau because of here. Let me get that. Let's go to Sirach. That's great. All praises, it was the Lord blessed us, bless Onias with the Avenger by getting Andronicus murdered. But remember what the scriptures say. Sirach 12 and 10, real quick. Never trust thy enemy, for like as iron rusted, so is his wickedness. Here's the point. Though he humbled himself, because how did he humble himself? He humbled himself by being angry at Andronicus for murdering Onias, our forefather Onias, the Israelite, the priest, the high priest, the righteous priest. So Antiochus, who humbled himself to kill him, God say, though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away. So never trust the enemy. Okay, let's go back. So although remember, it was of the Lord that happened. Let's go back to 2nd Maccabees, the 4th chapter and verse 38. It says, and being kindled with anger, forthwith he took away Andronicus his purple, and rent off his clothes, leading him through the whole city unto the unto that very place where he had committed impiety against Onias. There slew he the cursed murderer. Thus the Lord rewarded him his punishment as he had deserved. Verse 39. Now, when many sacrilege had been committed in the city by Lysimachus with the consent of Menelaus, and the bruit thereof was spread abroad, the multitude agreed. The multitude gathered themselves together against Lysimachus, many vessels of gold being already carried away. We just read that in the who's who. So now we get into Lysimachus' point. He, while he was set in the stead of Menelaus, he wreaked havoc. He was stealing vessels and censers and gold menorahs out of the temple, and he used that for his own benefit. Okay, verse 39. Now, when many, verse 40. Whereupon the common people rising and being filled with rage, Lysimachus armed about 3,000 men, and being first to offer violence on one Oranus being the leader, a man far gone in years and no less in folly, they then seeing the attempt of Lysimachus, some of them caught stones, some clubs, others taking handful of dust that was next at hand, cast them all together upon Lysimachus and those that set upon them. So the common folk, which is the regular common people in the villages or in the cities, decided to, we not to stand against this guy. This guy is literally going in the temple, taking the vessels of gold, doing what he want with it, and taking it and giving it to different various cities around the area just for bribery. They all had a spirit of bribery and covetousness. So the people stood up. They say, man, we ain't having it. So a civil war was taking place, so to speak, in that time amongst the Israelites. So they end up catching Lysimachus, stoning him, and put him to death, literally. And some of them, in the army that was with him, the men that was with him, they ended up injuring. Some of them got away, but they definitely caught Lysimachus, Menelaus' brother, and put him to death. Let's get that back on the who's who. There you go. Who's who? We're reading the second part where it's highlighted, where it reads Lysimachus, not the first highlighted area, the second part. Lysimachus was left in charge of the temple and plundered its treasury, taking money out of the temple. In the public riots provoked by his actions, he was killed by the mob. So off his own actions, the mob said, no, we ain't having that. The comment for we ain't having that. We need to stop that. So they end up killing him. Okay, let's go back to the Bible. Second Maccabees, the fourth chapter, verse 41 again. They then, seeing the attempt of Lysimachus, some of them caught stones, some clubs, others taking handful of dust that was next at hand, cast them all together upon Lysimachus and those that set upon them. Verse 42. Thus many of them they wounded, and some they struck to the ground, and all of them they forced to flee. But as for the church robber himself, him they killed beside the treasury. So they put him to death. They say, no, not going to happen. Verse 40, what we got? Verse 43. Of these matters thereof, there was an accusation laid against Menelaus. So upon them killing his brother Lysimachus, they told the king of what all the things Menelaus been doing. Okay, so they made an accusation against him. Verse 44. Now when the king came to Tyrus, 3 men that were sent from the Senate pleaded the cause before him. Pleaded what Menelaus did. Verse 45. But Menelaus, being now convinced, promised Ptolemy, the son of Dromianus, to give him much money if he would pacify the king toward him. Whereupon Ptolemy, taking the king aside into a certain gallery, as it were to take the air, brought him to be of another mind. You see how this man was he remind me of, if y'all ever watched Game of Thrones, it was this wicked dude called Littlefinger. This guy was a snake of all snakes. And Menelaus was one of those snakes. He was the ringleader of the Hellenist movement. He knew how to bribe people. He knew how to get himself out of trouble. He even faced many judgment or almost judgment from the king, and he always snake his. You know how snakes are. They're very. If you look at a snake, it's very. They slither and slip their way through things. It's a snake, but once you start cutting that grass, you see the snake. But Menelaus, he just had. His man is wicked. I can't wait to see when we read it. He put him to death. But he always paid and bribed the generals or the deputies of King Antiochus to put a word in for him to get him out of judgment. Here he's doing it here again. And sure enough, he got off. Damn. All right. Where we at? Verse 46 again. Whereupon Ptolemy, taking the king aside into a certain gallery, as it were to take the air, brought him to be of another mind. Meaning, Ptolemy ended up saying, nah, man, that Menelaus is good. Da, da, da. So the king mind has changed from his original thought of putting judgment on Menelaus. Verse 47. And so much that he discharged Menelaus from accusations, who, notwithstanding, was cause of all the mischief. And those poor men who, if they had told their cause, yea, before the Scythians, should have been judged innocent, them he condemned to death. You see that? You see the evil? You see the evil? So those who brought the accusation to the king, they end up getting put to death wrongfully. That's how evil, bro. That's how evil. All through bribery. All through bribery. You know, and it happens many times in history on us. I'm gonna get a precept real quick. This happened many times in history. It happens to us today. It happened to us in Babylon. It happened to us in Syria. Right now we're reading about the Greek captivity, but let's get Lamentations 4. Let's read verse 17. Lamentations 4, verse 17. Okay. If I'm going too fast, let me know, Israel, because, I want to cover. But we're going to Lamentations 4:17, all right? As for us, our eyes as yet failed for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us. Because remember, the common folk were our forefathers and foremothers who despised what happened to Ananias, and went to go bring that accusation to the king, also, which they got judgment for because they killed Andronicus. Then they said, okay, well, they went back to the king to report of Menelaus, of the evil his brother was doing, taking the treasures and all that. They ended up killing him, but they also wanted to add Menelaus to the judgment. But it didn't work out that way. They ended up getting put to death because of the bribery of Menelaus and the cunning and snake traitor Israelite. What do you do? Okay, read that again. Verse 17. As for us, our eyes as yet fell for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us. Okay, let's get another one. Isaiah 59, real quick. Isaiah 59. Let me see something. Isaiah 59, where I'm going, verse 9. Therefore is judgment far from us, neither does justice overtake us. We wait for light, but behold obscurity, for brightness, but we walk in darkness. Meaning we can't get nothing to go our way in this captivity. In our captivity, we are oppressed and judgment never go forth. So, and that's what's happened. That's what happened during this time that we're reading here. One more. Let's get Zechariah. Zechariah 11. Let's start at verse 5. The book of Zechariah, chapter 11, and verse 5. Whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell themselves say, blessed be the Lord, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them. That's the point. And their own shepherds pity them not. Who are our shepherds? The leaders. This today is Jesse Jackson, R. Sharpton, all these celebrities that we call leaders. But back then it was Menelaus, Lysimachus, Jason, all these wicked and alchemists. Alchemist another one too. We ain't we ain't read about him yet, but he's another evil. Israelite. Okay. So our own shepherds pitied us not. That's what Zechariah is saying. Now those shepherds at the time with our leaders, and this was Menelaus. They didn't care. All they cared about is their own bellies. Let's go back to Second Maccabees, the 4th chapter. We left off in, I believe, 47. Yep. Let's read verse 48. Verse 48. Thus they that followed the matter for the city and for the people and for the holy vessels did soon suffer unjust punishment. Our eyes as yet fail us for our vain help. We always go to that's Isaiah 31:1. We always go to Egypt for help. Metaphorically, Egypt would be synonymous for America, or in this time, Greeks. In other words, we always go to the other nations for help. Never go to God, and that's the problem. The Most High. That's the problem. Okay, so end up backfiring and getting them put to death wrongfully. Okay, verse 49. Wherefore, even they of Tyrus, moved with hatred of that wicked deed, caused them to be honorably buried. And so through the covetousness of them that were of power, Menelaus remained still in authority, increasing in malice, and being a great traitor to the citizens. Damn. That's what happened, man. The wickedness, we got to turn to the Lord. That's why we have to always go to prayer. We got to do what Judas Maccabees, Mattathias, Simon, and them, what they did, what we prayed to the Lord, or Moses, or King David. They always prayed to the Lord for help. We didn't go to the heathen. We didn't go vote. Like today, they voting for Trump or Kamala Harris. We go to mayors, or we vote mayors or senates. All this stuff is sin. It's sin. It's sin, So all praise. So that's Second Maccabees, the 4th chapter. I read briefly of how the Greekish fashion was established. Started with Jason, then Menelaus took over, then Lysimachus put to death, then Menelaus ended up keeping that authority and being a traitor to his people. So all praise. So let's go back to Daniel. All right, since it's feast of dedication, all praise. We got the feast of dedication, one of the mighty high holy days that was ordained during the time of the Greek captivity. Since we're going over Maccabees, we have. It was only right that we go over the dedication, right? So let's go over dedication. But let's go back to Daniel. Let's start off with the book of Daniel, chapter 8. Okay. Daniel chapter 8. We're going to Daniel chapter 8, and we're going to start off in verse 10. Now, like I said, when I started doing this class, I opened up with Daniel 8 in verse 8. So I'm not going to go over that again. Go watch the class. My first time doing Hasmonean and Legacy. Then you can get that explanation. So I'm going to start at verse 10 because I didn't read 10 down. I stopped at verse 9 and jumped to 23 because I was going over a specific history timeline. So now I'm going to go ahead and go over Daniel chapter 8, verse 10. Okay. Daniel chapter 8 and verse 10. And it waxed great, even to the hosts of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. Now, what is this talking about? Like just briefly recap. When we read up verse 8, it's talk about the great. It talks about the great goat. The goat. It talk about a goat. It talk about a horn and four notable ones. This is talk about Greece coming in power. Then that first king under that Greece coming in power was Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great was broken, meaning he got put to death. He died. The Lord put him to death because of his with syphilis, with a plague. And four notables stood up. That's Seleucus, Lysimachus, Cassander, and Ptolemy. These are the four generals that came after Alexander the Great. You read that in First Maccabees, the first chapter about Alexander the Great becoming the superpower of the earth by destroying Darius, the Persian king. Okay. So now when you read verse 9, it talks about a little horn, which is Antiochus Epiphanes. We read about what we just read about in 2 Maccabees, the 4th chapter. That little horn is Antiochus Epiphanes. And then when you read verse 9, the last line, it talks about he went to the east and toward the pleasant line. That pleasant line is Jerusalem. That's exactly what Antiochus did. He conquered parts of Egypt, then later on went to Jerusalem and wreaked havoc on it. And when he did that, he destroyed the temple, the vessels. He turned it to pretty much took everything out of it, made it bare, took everything. And now in history, when time passed, we're going to see what happened as far as the temple with the Maccabees. All right, so now we in verse 10. Verse 10, and it waxed great, even to the hosts, even to the hosts of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon it. Meaning he made them follow their philosophy. That's First Maccabees, the first chapter. So let's get real quick. Genesis 37. Genesis 37 real quick. Genesis 37. If I can get it real quick. Genesis 37, and I'm going to read verse 9. Verse 9, okay. Now, this chapter is going into Joseph and his dream, but there's a point I wanted out of that to show you what Daniel was talking about in Daniel 8 and 10. Genesis 37 and verse 9, and he dreamed yet another dream and told it his brethren. So Joseph, one of our forefather, who was the father of Ephraim and Manasseh, he had a dream and he told it to his brother, his 11 older brothers, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Naphtali, Zebulun, all of them, right? So this is Joseph. He says, and he dreamed yet another dream and told it his brethren and said, behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. The key point I want you to per pages is the 11 stars. So I'm connecting a dot for you what Daniel was talking about. Now let's go back to Daniel 8. Remember that point, 11 stars. Okay, Daniel 8 in verse 10. And it waxed great. What waxed great? Antiochus Epiphanes, because verse 9 tell you a little horn took over, went through the east, went to the south, and went to the pleasant land. Now verse 10 is talking about it waxed great. Well, who waxed great? Antiochus Epiphanes waxed great. He was conquering and destroying everything before him, even to the host of heaven, even to the priests. The host of heaven goes into the priests. These are your Menelaus. These are your Jasons, to the priests, to the host of heaven, the Israelites, right? And it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars. Those stars are talking about the Israelites. That's what we read in Genesis 37. Those stars represents the Israelites. Those 11 stars. That's why I want you to see that dream of Joseph. He cast and he says, and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. How did he stamp it on? He made this what he did. First Maccabees. Let's go back. We're gonna come back to Daniel. First Maccabees chapter 1. We're gonna read verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and every one should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the king's commandment. Okay. According to the king's commandment. And yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land. That's why when you go back, let's go back to Daniel, when it mentioned, it's going back to Daniel 8 in verse 10, and it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. What? His religion. He stamped his religion in that they had to follow, and many of our forefathers followed that crap, Now, Here's another precept. Let's go to Daniel 11. I'm going to jump from Daniel 8 and Daniel 11 to show you the parallel. Daniel 11, verse 28. Then shall he return into his land with great riches. That's King Antiochus. And his heart shall be against the holy covenant. Who? Antiochus Epiphanes. Because he went towards that, he went to the east, he conquered to the east, to the west, and then he went to the pleasant land. Then it says, then shall his heart be against the holy covenant, and he shall do exploit and return to his own land. What exploit he had to do? What exploit he talking about? You know, it just show you, our people was wicked as hell. We had a lot of Israelites that assisted him. That's all those who do exploit. I'm going to read it again. It says, verse 28, then shall he return into his land with great riches. What? Because Antiochus destroyed the temple. He made it bare. So he took all that back to to Antioch. And his heart shall be against the holy covenant, and he shall do exploit and return to his own land. Okay. Antiochus conquered Egypt and also Israel. Let's go back to Daniel 8. Daniel 8. And let's read verse 11. Daniel 8, verse 11. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the hosts, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. So this how you know there's some wickedness taking place. King Antiochus, after going to Jerusalem, he turned the daily sacrifices to sacrifice idolatry. We read that. Let's go back to First Maccabees. Let's go back to First Maccabees chapter 1, and we're going to read verse 45. Second Maccabees 1, verse 45. It says, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days. Verse 46, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people. Set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts. Let's go back to Daniel 8. Daniel 8 in verse 11. I'm sorry, verse 10. Is it verse 10? Let me see. Yeah, verse 11. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifices was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. So the prince of the host is these priests, is all people, Israelites. He said the prince of the host, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host. So Antiochus had all these wicked Israelites in his pocket. They consented to that thing. And that's how they did exploit, you know. And then by Antiochus, the daily sacrifice was taken away. Here's another precept. Let's go to Daniel 11:32. You're going to see that Daniel 8 and Daniel 11 is parallel. It's going to the history literally side by side. What I said, Daniel 11:32. It reads, and such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. These are those prince of the hosts, those priests, these shepherds that pity us not, these leaders that all on covetousness. Verse 32 again, and such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries, but the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploit. Now, these people he corrupt by flattery, these are Jason, Simon, Menelaus, alchemists, all these wicked of our people. These are the ringleaders I'm naming. Okay, so in doing exploit goes back to Antiochus came against the priests, destroyed the sacrifice, and the people no longer desired to keep the laws of the land anymore. Let's get that. Second Maccabees. Was it Second Maccabees 4? We read that last week. Yep, Second Maccabees 4 and Let's read verse 15. Not setting by the honors of their fathers, but liking the glory of the Grecians best of all, by reason whereof sore calamities came upon them, for they had them to be their enemies and avengers, whose custom they followed so earnestly, and unto whom they desired to be like in all things. These were some wicked, wicked, wicked people. Let's go back to Daniel's 8. I'm going to have to speed up a little bit. Daniel's 8. I definitely got to go to another class with this. There's a lot. Daniel's 8 in verse 12 now. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Let you know that host was our wicked Israelites. What verse that was? That was verse 12. That host was our wicked Israelites. Here's that. Let's go back to Daniel's 11. I'm showing you it parallels right along. Daniel's 11 and 31, right? And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that make it desolate. Was it desolate? This is our people. A host is given them. Who is that host? Who is that host? We just read it in 2 Maccabees, the 4th chapter. Let's go back. But this time we're going to read verse 7. That host is Jason, Alchemist, Menelaus, what's the other wicked brother? Simon, Lysimachus, all them wicked of our people. We're going to go to 2 Maccabees, the 4th chapter in verse 7. But after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus called Epiphany took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, labored underhand to be high priest. Okay, jump down to verse 9. Beside this, he promised to assign 150 more if he might have license to set him up a place of exercise, and for the training up of youth in the fashions of the heathen, and to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochians. This is wicked of our people. Wicked. Here's some more. Let's go to 1 Maccabees 1 and verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. We just read that. Let's go back to Daniel's 11 in verse 31. And we can read verse 30 with it. That intelligence is going into those wicked of our people. But let's read verse 31, because it goes with Daniel 8 and 12. Daniel's 8 and 12, yeah. Okay, let's go back to verse 31. We're going back to Daniel's 11, 31. An arm shall stand on his part. On whose part? That arm is those wicked of our people backing or loving the Grecians best of all. And they shall pollute the sanctuary. This primarily the priests and all them, and those do that, or those who labored underhand to be priests. Some of them weren't even Levites. And they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and they shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that make it desolate. And this goes into our wicked of our people, the Israelites. We just read that in 1 Maccabees 1 and 11. Let's go back to Daniel 8. I'm showing you the destruction of the temple. Feast of dedication, right? And we're going to get to feast of dedication. All right. Let's go to verse 13 now. Daniel 8, verse 13. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and its transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? He says, how long is this going to be? So Daniel's seeing something heavy. Daniel's seeing in a vision, in the spirit. He's seeing Mattathias, the father to Judas Maccabees. That's that saint. Because who was the saint? The Israelites. We got to get it. I ain't had this, but we got to get it. We got to get the saints. Because if we don't get it, people ain't going to understand. Let me see. Right. Okay. Psalms 148, verse 14. He also exalted the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even of the children of Israel, a people near unto him, praise ye the Lord. So that's the saints. Let's go back. Daniel's 11 verse 13. I'm sorry, Daniel 8 verse 13. Daniel 8 verse 13. It says, Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? So Daniel seeing Mattathias in a vision asking this question. Let you know Daniel was a prophet. The Lord showed him that he had dreams and seen visions. So Daniel seeing Mattathias and seeing the temple being destroyed, and Mattathias asking these questions. Let's get that. First Maccabees to 2, second chapter. First Maccabees chapter 2. Okay. Let's jump down to the point. Let's start at verse 7. Because remember, it says that saint was asking, how long? Let's read it. First Maccabees 2 and 7. Let me read verse 1 so you can know who we talking about. Verse 1. In those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Joreb from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. Now, he mentioned the sons when you read verse 2 through 2, 3, and 6, but we're going to jump for time's sake. Let's jump down to verse 7. Now we know who's talking. This is Mattathias, the father to Judas Maccabees and Simon and the Maccabees. We're getting into the Hasmonean legacy now. Verse 7, he said, Woe is me, wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people? How long, O Lord? You know what I'm saying? And of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers. Verse 8, her temple is become as a man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets. Her young men with the sword of the enemy. What nation had not had part in her, had not had a part in her kingdom, and gotten of her spoils? All her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman she has become a bond slave. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory, is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. To what end, there you go, to what end, therefore, shall we live any longer? Let's go back to Daniel chapter 8. This is Daniel seeing Mattathias saying this in the spirit. So the Lord was dealing with Daniel with another level. Remember, Daniel was wise, was a wise man, and the Lord was dealing with him in the next level. Let's go back to Daniel's 8:13. It says, Then I heard one saint speaking. That's Mattathias. Because Mattathias just said, to what end thereof shall we live any longer? He's like, how long? We going to endure this thing? Because Mattathias like, yo, I seen all this in my time. Woe is me in this day? You know, let's go back to Daniel's 8:13. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint that spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? Verse 14. Okay. And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So Daniel, if it mentioned the feast of dedication, he said 2,300 days the sanctuary shall be cleansed. So going on that same thought now, let's get real quick. I'm going to go back to this book. Where is it? I'm going back to this book right here. Okay, we're going back to the who's who. And oh my God, what's this? We're gonna go back to that book because we want to deal with the we want to deal with the thought. Okay, let me fix this. I'm fixing the screen real quick. Give me a second, Israel. Patient. This, this techie thing, doing everything at once. You being your own IT, that thing ain't easy. Okay, I gotta fix it. So, uh, okay, because I want to show you what Antiochus did to the temple. Why? Why did Mattathias scream all that? Okay, here you go. All right, we're going inside the book. Here you go. Now, wait a second. I want you to see who it is. If you look at the green highlighted area at the top, you see three. The first highlighted green area, you see King Antiochus, right? So now I'm going to go to the bottom because I want you to see. I'm going to scroll it down a little bit so we can better see. Hopefully I can see that. Okay. So now we jump down to the second highlighted part. I just want to read that part real quick. It says, now it came to pass after 2 years in the 145th year, on the 25th day of the month, which is by us called Caslu, and by the Macedonians Apilius, in the 153rd Olympiad, that the king, which is King Antiochus, right? That the king, uh, that the king came up to Jerusalem and pretended peace. This dude was wicked as hell. This dude pretended peace, but he was not up for peace. He pretended peace. He got possession of the city by treachery, at which time he spared not so much as those that admitted him into it, on account of the riches that lay in the temple, but led by his covetous inclination, for he saw there was in it a great deal of gold and many ornaments that had been dedicated to it of very great value. And in order to plunder its wealth, he ventured to break the league he had made. Now we read in the second highlighted area. The second highlighted, at the bottom, that's the bottom green. The bottom, we're going to the highlighted area down there. So he left the temple bare and took away the golden candlesticks and that's the menorahs and the golden altar of incense and table of shewbread and the altar of burnt offering, and did not abstain from even the veils, which was made of fine linen and scarlet. He also emptied it of its secret treasures and left nothing at all remaining, and by this means cast the Jews into great lamentation. So King Antiochus wreaked havoc and took everything. Okay, I'm going to move it up a little bit. Give me a second. I'm moving it up. Okay, we moved it up. We at 251 right there. So a great lamentation. He says, for he forbade them to offer those daily sacrifices which they used to offer to God according to the law. And when he had pillaged the whole city, some of the inhabitants he slew, and some he carried captive, together with their wives and children, so that the multitude of those captives that were taken alive amounted to about 10,000. He also burnt down the first building, and when he had overthrown the city walls, he built a citadel in the lower part of the city for the place. So King Antiochus wreaked havoc. He destroyed the temple, and this is what Mattathias was reading in First Maccabees, the second chapter, about why he was vexed about that, and he was saying, "Why? Woe is me who's born in this day." That's some wicked stuff. So let's go back to Daniel 8, verse 14 again. And he said unto him, for Daniel 8:14, and he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Okay. Now I'm going to get something else real quick. I don't know why this stuff doing this to me. load. This computer stuff be loading. Any case, let's get First Maccabees. The 4th chapter. Hold up, nope, not yet. Yep. Let's go back to First Maccabees or Second Maccabees, the 4th chapter. I think we're going to. Yep. Give me a second. No, that's what we need. Let's go to Daniel's 11. I forgot. Let's go back to Daniel's 11. So we read verse 14. Let's go Daniel's 11 and verse 34. No, let's start at verse 33. So he said after 2,300 days, the temple will be cleansed, right? Let's go to Daniel's 11:33. Okay, because no, let's read 32. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall be corrupted by flatteries, but the people that do know their God shall do exploit. We read that. Verse 33. And they that understood among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame, by captivity and by spoil many days. We just read that. Let's go back to it. Let's go back to Second Maccabees, the 2nd chapter. First Maccabees, the 2nd chapter. One of them was Mattathias and his brothers, and a lot of them. Here's another one. 2 Maccabees 2 and verse 42. Then came there unto him a company of the Assyrians. Remember, I mentioned 3 parties. Now we get into the second party. We dealt with the Hellenists. That's Menelaus, Jason, and all those wicked of our Israelites. That first party. Now we're going into the Assyrians, which are the Hadesins. This is the second political. Remember, those 3 political parties at the time: Hasmonean, Hadesins, and Hellenists. We dealt with the Hellenists briefly about the wicked of our people. Now we're getting into the Assyrians, which is Hadesins. First Maccabees 2, verse 42. Then came there unto him a company of the Assyrians, who were mighty men of Israel, even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law. So these brothers was joined forces with the Hasmonean brothers. That's what when you read earlier chapter. Let's go to First Maccabees. Let's jump up a little bit. Let's jump up verse 17. 2 Maccabees 2, verse 17. Then answered the king officer and said to Mattathias on this wise, thou art a ruler? No, I want to see what Mattathias said. No, verse 19. First Maccabees 2, verse 19. Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers and give consent to his commandment, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. God forbid that we should forsake the law and ordinance. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion, either on the right hand or on the left. Now, when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews. So him and his brothers and Hasmoneans joined forces with the Assyrians. What we just read in the same chapter down to verse 42. So let you know, these 2 parties believed in keeping the sanctuary cleansed, keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments. So these parties joined. But the Hellenist side, the political part of the Hellenist side, which was Menelaus in them, Menelaus was the ringleader. That party didn't follow the commandments, as law, statutes, and commandments. All right. Let me plug my laptop. It's getting low. Make sure it's charging. Okay, all praise. All right. So let's go back to Daniel's 11. Let's go back to Daniel's 11 and let's read that again. Daniel's 11 and verse, what was that? 32. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall be corrupted by flatteries. No, I'm sorry, verse 33. And they that understood among the people, that's the Assyrians, we just read that. They that understood among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword. Why? Because a lot of them got put to death. And by flame, by captivity, and by spoil many days. Why? Because that's the wars they had during the time of the Maccabees. Now, verse 34. Now, when they had, now when they shall fall, they shall be hoping with a little help, but many shall cleave to them with flatteries. What does it mean by now when they shall fall, they shall be hoping with a little help? What is that talking about? Here's your precept. Let's go to 2nd Maccabees, chapter 8. We're going to read up a little bit. We're going to read up a little bit. Where is it? Yep, 2nd Maccabees 8. We're going to start at verse 1. Yeah, when you multitask, you're doing all this. You're doing the screen, the video. It ain't easy, Israel, so bear with me. All right, 2nd Maccabees 8, verse 1. Then Judas Maccabeus and they that were with him went privily into the towns and called their kinsfolks together and took unto them all such as continued in the Jews' religion, which is the laws. We just read that in First Maccabees 2:21, and assembled about 6,000 men. 6,000 men. All right. Now, for time's sake, I'm going to jump. All right. I'm going to jump down to verse 16. Verse 16. I'm sorry, not verse 16. Yes, verse 16. So Maccabeus called his men together unto the number of 6,000 and exhorted them not to be stricken with terror of the enemy, nor to fear the great multitude of the heathen who came wrongfully against them, but to fight manfully. Understand that. So this is Maccabees exhorting the men. Remember, we're dealing with Daniel's 8. We're still dealing with Daniel's 11. I'm showing you that help. So Maccabees got men together, got kinfolks together, and he exhorted them manfully, about 6,000 men, right? Let's jump down to verse 18. For they, said he, trust in their weapons and boldness, but our confidence is in the Almighty God, who at a beck can cast down both them that come against us and also all the world. This is what Judas Maccabeus is exhorting the men and telling them. Okay. Now we're going to jump. We still jump. We're jumping. We're going to jump to verse 21 now. We're still in 2nd Maccabees, the 8th chapter. We're jumping to verse 21. We're getting to the point now. Okay. We're going to read 21 down to 23. Thus, when he had made them bold with these words and ready to die for the laws in the country, he divided his army into 4 parts and joined with himself his own brethren, leaders of each band, to wit Simon. Remember, Simon was his brother, and Joseph. Joseph is Joannan. Okay, and Jonathan. Jonathan is Jonathan. And so that's 3 brothers so far. It's Judas, Simon, Joannan, and Jonathan. That's 4 brothers. Verse 22 again. And he joined with himself his own brothers, leaders of the band, to wit Simon, Joseph, and Jonathan, giving each one 1,500 men. 1,500 men out of that 6,000. In verse 23. Also he appointed Eleazar. That's the 5th brother. He appointed Eleazar to read the holy book. And when he had given them these watchword, the help of God, himself leading the first band, he joined battle with Nicanor. That help of God is Judas Maccabeus. Judas Maccabeus. That's the hell. Let's go back to Daniel's 8. I hope y'all caught that. I'm sorry. Let's go back to Daniel's 11. And verse. That's how you know Daniel was another spirit, bro. Daniel seen this whole thing in the spirit, detailed. Talking about the Apocryphal canon. Get out of here. Okay, Daniel's 11, verse 34. Now when they shall fall, they shall be hoping. Hoping, another word for hoping is help. the help of God. That's Judas Maccabeus. And they shall be hoping with a little help. But many shall cleave to them with flatteries, meaning a lot of them that joined Judah Maccabees in the army, a lot of them was opportunists, and a lot of them was traitors. That's what it mean by, but many shall cleave to them with flatteries. These was Negroes. These was informants. These was, let me show you. Here's one informant. Let's get 2 Maccabees 13. I'm going to show you one informant that Daniel was talking about. So Daniel even seen the damn traitors. 2 Maccabees 13, let's read verse 21. Okay. Now when Timotheus had knowledge of Judas' coming, he sent the woman. Is that what I want? I'm sorry, I'm at 13. I'm at 12. 2 Maccabees 13, verse 21. I was at 12:21. Let's go to chapter 13. 2 Maccabees 13:21. But Rhodicus, who was in the Jews' host, what that's saying? He was amongst the ranks in the Jews' host, meaning he was amongst, because he was an Israelite. But Rhodicus, who was in the Jews' host, disclosed the secrets to the enemies. Therefore, he was sought out, and when they had gotten him, they put him in prison. Point is, this snake, this traitor of our people, Rhodicus, he was that, go back to Daniel's 11:34. Daniel's 11:34 says, now when they shall fall, they shall be hoping with a little help. That's Judas Maccabeus and his brothers. But many shall cleave to them with flatteries. So Rhodicus is just an example, but it was a lot of traitors. There was the traitors of our people. We read one of the traitors, and let's go back to 2 Maccabees? Yeah, 2 Maccabees 4 in verse 50. Let's read that again. Because they got the word I want, traitor. 2 Maccabees 4 verse 50. And so through the covetousness of them that were of power. So it was not just one. It was not just Rhodicus. It's just many of these dudes. Okay, wicked of our people. And so through the covetousness of them that were of power, Menelaus remained still in authority, increasing in malice and being the great traitor to the citizens. That's why I wanted that verse, because they got that word traitor in it. Okay. So let's go back to Daniel's 11. So now we know who the help is. The help of God is Judas Maccabeus and his brothers. Let's go back to Daniel's 11. Wait a minute. Yep. Let's go Daniel's 11 in verse 35 now. And some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them and to purge and to make them white even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed to make them white. What does that mean? Let's stay in this. We stand in the book, Daniel 12. Let's go to chapter 12. I think it's verse 10. Let me see. Yep. Daniel 12 and 10. Many shall be purified and made white. Now this is twofold. Even till this time. Daniel 12, many captivities took place. But let's read that. Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. So the point I wanted was many shall be purified and made white. Why? Because a lot of us going to be put to death. That's what we read in Daniel 11:35. So one more, let me get another precept. Second Maccabees 16, Bishop bring this out a lot. Second Ezra. Second Ezra 16, real quick. Second Ezra 16, I think is verse 40. Let me look at it. Second Ezra 7, yeah. Second Ezra 16, verse 73. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire. I mean, we gonna be put to death. That's what he's telling you. That's what Daniel is saying in the spirit in Daniel 11. Daniel is saying the same thing we just read in Ezra. He's saying the same thing. They shall be tried. And who are those that tried? 2 Maccabees, the 7th chapter. Let's go how because this is the time King Antiochus did this. Remember the 7 sons? 2 Maccabees, the 7th chapter. Let's start at verse 1. It came to pass also that 7 brethren with their mother were taken and compelled by the king Antiochus, against the law to taste swine's flesh, were tortured with scourges and whips. I'm going to show you that in the authors. The scholars knew this thing. We're going to go, there's a book called Foxes. I forgot what the name of the book. Let me look at it. I didn't take a picture of the book cover, but it's called Fox's Book of Martyrs. Okay. So we're going to go in the book, Fox's Book of Martyrs, right? We're going to go right into the book. And I'm going to read that for y'all. Okay. And just the purple highlighted area. Listen, I'm going to butcher these names. These are Greek names, but these are Israelites. So don't be alarmed. You see these Greek names thinking, who are these people? This is the second Maccabees 7 chapter, the seven sons and their mother. Okay, let's see. Let's see if I can pronounce this word. Felicitas, an illustrious Roman lady of the considerable family and most shining virtues, was a devout Christian. Now, I know it's using these trigger words, Christian, all that. We know in Acts 11:26 or 26:11 talks about Israel was called Christian first, not Christianity. We talking about Christian. Christian is anointed, a follower of Christ, those who follow Christ, okay? She had 7 sons whom she had educated with the most exemplary piety. Here's the names. Januarius, the eldest, was scourged and pressed to death with weights. You see how they killed us? Understand that they was pressed to death with weights. It's giving little details of what took place, how they got put to death. Felix and Philip, the two next, had their brains bashed out with clubs. Oh my God. Silvanus the fourth was murdered by being thrown from a precipice, and the 3 younger sons, Alexander, Vitalis, and Martial, were beheaded. The mother was beheaded with the same sword as the 3 latter. So that's your second Maccabees, the 7th chapter. Now, y'all can read that on your own. So I just wanted to show you. Let's go back to Daniel's 11 now. I just wanted to show you what Daniel is seeing in the spirit concerning those that were slain and shall be tried. Why? This is that second Maccabees chapter 7 is that example of that. Let's go back to Daniel's 11. What time I got? Okay, we got 6:45. Daniel's 11 verse 35 again. And some of them Daniel's 11:35. And some of them of understanding shall fall to try them and to purge and to make them white. These people were sealed. That's what we read in Daniel 12:10. We read that in second Ezra 16:73, where it says, and they shall try with gold is tried in the fire. I mean, they're gonna be put to death. And that's what took place. And we read as many of our forefathers were sealed. You know, that's why Nehemiah. And you think that sealing just started in the New Testament? No. They've been getting sealed since the Old Testament. Here's the proof. Our forefathers been getting sealed in the Old Testament. Let's go to Nehemiah. Nehemiah, is it chapter 10? Yep. Nehemiah, Old Testament. Nehemiah chapter 10 and verse 1. Now those that sealed were Nehemiah, the Tershatha, the son of Hilkiah, and Zedekiah. So let you know, all this whole chapter in chapter 10 is telling you all the names that were sealed. Y'all read that on your own time. I just wanted that point. And those that were sealed. Those that were sealed, there's a lot of our people were sealed in the Old Testament. Okay, let's go back to Daniel. Now let's go now. Now, let's go to Second Maccabees. I'm sorry, First Maccabees. Let's read the history. Now we're going. Now we read in the Who's Who about Antiochus, how he destroyed the temple in the year he did it. Now I'm gonna get this book real quick. This is another good book. Let me look for it. Let me look for it real quick. While we get that, we're going to go to First Maccabees, the 4th chapter. Where is it? So, see, let me know if you guys can see that. This is the book of the Josephus. Got another book. A lot of things he say is good, parallel with the Bible. A lot of things might not be so, not quite. So, but some things. This book is a good book where he give a lot of good detailed history on of our ancestors and especially the Israelites. So this is the book of Josephus, and we're going to go read. Let me get the page. Give me a second. IT stuff real, boy. This thing real. Mercy on IT. So while we wait on that, let's get First Maccabees, the 4th chapter. We're going to read verse 1. It says, Then took Gorgias 5,000 footmen and 1,000 of the best horsemen and removed out of the camp by night. So we're going to get, now this is going to get into the history of the cleansing of the temple. Here you go. So we're going inside the book, right? We're going in the book to go over the cleansing of the temple. So this is inside of Josephus. About Mattathias. I hope y'all can see that. So I'm gonna read at that underlined area there in 320. Now it's so fair. Hopefully I can see that right. Now it so fell out that these things were done on the very same day on which the divine worship of had fallen off. Talking about the cleansing of the temple, and was reduced to profane and common use after 3 years' time. For so it was that the temple was made desolate by Antiochus, and so continued for 3 years. This desolation happened to the temple in the 145th year, on the 25th day of the month Caslu. And or it says Apelius, which is another name the Mesopotamians called it. And on the 153rd year, Olympid, but it was dedicated anew on the same day, on the 25th of the month Apelius, which is Caslu, in the 148th year, and on the 145th of Ampelid. And this desolation came to pass according to the prophecy of Daniel, which was given 408 years before. For he declared that the Macedonians would dissolve the worship for some time. So that's what I wanted to show you, that Daniel prophesied that 400, what does it say? 408 years before. That's what we just read in Daniel's 8:14, as well as Daniel's 11. But Daniel's 8:14, he prophesied that thing was 400 some years before. So that's what we get from the Josephus. That's why I wanted to show you. Now let's go to First Maccabees and let's read of the cleansing. Since for time's sake, let's go to First Maccabees 4 we're going to read verse 36. Then said Judas and his brethren, behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up and cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. After, when you read this chapter, after Judas Maccabees destroyed Gorgias, Gorgias came back with reinforcement, and he put him to flight again in around Idumea and all that. And they got great deliverance that day. And then he went back and let Lysias, another general, Roman general or Greek general, to come with reinforcement to battle with them. And Judas Maccabee exhorted the men to fight, and we got to and fight them and destroy them. And that's what happened. He destroyed Gorgias as well as Lysias, their generals and their armies. So now he decided, let's go cleanse and rededicate the temple. That's what we just read in Who's Who. The Josephus, the book of Josephus. So verse 30, I'm gonna jump for time's sake. Verse 39 now. First Maccabees 4:39. They rent their clothes and made great lamentation and cast ashes upon their heads and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces and blew an alarm with their trumpets and cried towards heaven. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortresses until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So he chose priests, blameless conversation such as had pleasure in the law, who cleanse the sanctuary and bear out the defiled stones into an unclean place. As they consulted with what to do with the altar and burnt offerings, which was profane, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it, wherefore they polluted it. They pulled it down and laid up the stones in the mountains of the temple in a convenient place until there should come a prophet to show what should be done of them. Now we're going to jump down to verse 52. Now on the 5th and 12th day of the 9th month, which is called the month Caslu. Let me get Caslu real quick. Let's get Caslu real quick. So understand what Caslu. Caslu, also known as Clasliv, is the 9th month of the Jewish calendar and the 3rd month of the civil year. So look at the part where it says when. Between November and December on the Gregorian calendar. So let you know that's why when we keep this Feast of Dedication, which is actually at sundown today, it varies either between late November, early December, things of that nature. So it depends, because it's 30 days. It depends when Esau, the Esau be doing those daylight savings. When you read Daniel 8, he sought to change times and he just confused everything. So just give you a ballpark of what Caslu is. It is then considered the 9th month. So that will be between November and December. All right. So I just wanted to show that point there. Okay, let's go back. First Maccabees 4 in verse 52 again. Now on the 5th and 12th day of the 9th month, that's what we're reading, which is called the month of Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it, even in that was it dedicated with songs and with cisterns and harps and cymbals. This feast is a feast of dedication, also known as Feast of Hanukkah. Okay. Verse 55, then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the God of heaven, who had gave them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days and offered burnt offerings with gladness and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. They decked also the forefoot of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed and hanged doors upon them. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 5th and 20th day of the month Caslu with mirth and with gladness. Verse 60, at that time also they built it up the Mount Sion with high walls and strong towers round about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down as they had done before. And they set there a garrison to keep it and fortified Bethshua. Bethshua is a village in Judea. Bethshua to preserve it, that the people might have a defense against Idumea. Let you know, the Bible is a true book. Let's get that last scripture, and I'm going to close it on out because it's my time. Let's go to the book of John, chapter 10. Got to bring this out to show you that this is why Christ did this. Let's get John chapter 10, and let's read verse 22. And it was at Jerusalem, the feast of dedication, and it was winter. Why? Because the ninth month of the year, Caslu. It was winter, the ninth month between November and December. Christ, let's read it again. And it was at the Jerusalem, the feast of dedication, which is Hanukkah. And it was winter, and Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. The Messiah, the black Messiah, Jesus the Christ, kept the feast of dedication. And as we read in the Maccabees, we kept it year by year, meaning it's a memorial. So you might not see in Leviticus 23 because it happened during it happened during the deliverance in the Hasmonean dynasty and legacy, where they rededicated the temple of the Lord, blessed them to rededicate that thing. So all praise to the Most High. This is a great day, even so. Hopefully, all y'all are able to keep the feast in unity. Come to dwell in the Lord's feast days, the high holy days, because at the end of the day, listen, it's spiritual. We got to keep that feast because our forefathers went through hell, and as we will go through in these last days. So we need to get our spirits lifted and rejuvenated while we keep these feasts. So Lord's will we all, let Israel, y'all able to keep the feast. Most of us not for 8 days, obviously, but if you can keep it open up and closing, that's good because these are Sabbaths. All praise to the Most High. So with that, Israel, that's the class. The dedication is this evening. Happy feast of dedication, pre-feast of dedication, or happy prep feast of dedication to all those around all Israel. So 12 tribes worldwide. Shalom, Most High, Christ bless.